Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. It is Pegasus World Cup Saturday at Gulfstream Park, and DRF Handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will take a peek at the Grade 1 $9 million Pegasus World Cup Invitational, the Grade 1 $7 million Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational, and bonus coverage of the Grade 3 WL McKnight at 1.5 miles on the turf. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on some of the sires in both of the Pegasus World Cup races, and David Aragona of Timeform US is going to take a spotlight look at a value opportunity at Aqueduct. JK's Play of the Day, a daily double featuring the Pegasus World Cup Turf and the Pegasus World Cup. And Craig Milkowski of Timeform US is going to project the pace of the Hurricane Birdie Stakes, one of the nice undercard races on Pegasus World Cup Saturday at Gulfstream. Plus, best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, Naira analyst, you're going to Tampa Bay Downs, and I know why. Basically, every horse watch that you've given out on Out of the Gate over the last 6 months, some sort of Chad Brown train runner, no exception yet again.
He's got some good horses. I think that guy knows what he's doing. This horse did debut at Tampa. I'll probably see this horse in New York eventually, I would guess. A Klarovich first-time starter. Let's put the replay up. This is Digital Age. A 3-year-old now. This is his first career start. He was very green. Let's pick it up at the stretch. He was very green early in this race. Got stuck 4 wide. You could see him. He was over behind horses at the top of the stretch. I'll call this learning on the job. I don't think this horse really knows what he's doing yet. On his wrong lead the entire way, but he just gallops over the top of this field. I think this horse might turn out to be okay. We'll see what happens. Blew by that field very, very nicely. Nice turn to run, and as Mike mentioned, still doesn't know what he was doing on his left lead most of the way. Matt, you might have found an under-the-radar 3-year-old that might head over to the race like the Sam F. Davis, or they might be even looking South Florida, Gulfstream 3-year-old Derby preps.
I was going to say, on the heels of this effort for win-win-win in the Pasco last weekend, we can throw that replay up. I think the connections have got to be looking at this saying the sky's the limit here. Here's this horse, much more professional this time around. I know there was a hot pace signed on, but boy, you want to talk about engulfing this field and going on and just blowing the doors off. 99 Beyer speed figure, wins by more than 7 lengths. He's 3 of 4 lifetime, never been out of the exacta in 4 lifetime starts. I think you obviously are considering 2 turns next start, but like you said, Dan, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they got a little bit ambitious and said, forget about the Sam Davis. Let's go down to Gulfstream and see what we can do.
My horse watch is a newly turned 4-year-old out in Southern California. His name is Kanthaka, and he gave a breakthrough performance in the beginning of his 3-year-old campaign when he got a hot pace and ran away from the field in the Grade 2 San Vicente. After that start, trainer Jerry Hollendorfer got a bit of Derby fever. Started Kanthaka in a couple of 2-turn races, and that is not Kanthaka's bag, man. They turned him back sprinting in the Las Barrera. He won that race, and unfortunately, he missed the entire summer due to various injuries. He's now making his second start of the form cycle in this race, the Grade 2 Palos Verdes. And let's just say, this is a tough spot taking on 2-time Breeders' Cup Sprint champion Roy H. Kanthaka, as usual, was out-sprinted in the early portion of this race, but he comes with a determined, strong late run to finish second behind odds-on champion Roy H. 6 furlongs is just too short for Kanthaka, and that was the distance of the Palos Verdes. We won't say it in the replay, but he galloped out right past Roy H. a 16th of a mile after the wire, and if Hollendorfer can A, keep him sound and keep him in longer distance sprints, 6.5, 7, the occasional 1-turn mile, perhaps like the Metropolitan Mile, we might be onto something with a very talented runner in Kanthaka for trainer Jerry Hollendorfer. Let's get to some handicapping. The Grade 1 $9 million Pegasus World Cup is our Saturday race of the day. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 1 $9 million Pegasus World Cup Invitational Stakes. Carded is race number 12 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com. We talk about each horse in each stakes race at Gulfstream this Saturday and lots more. Our Pegasus World Cup coverage all week has been presented by Lanes End. Matt, this is a race where there are 2 big names, Accelerate and City of Light. 2 Breeders' Cup winners. You're looking for a price, somebody to upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Yeah, and look, like you say, City of Light and Accelerate, they're strictly the horses to beat in this spot. But if you want a little bit of a price, a horse that I think has a big chance to hit the board, and look, on his best day, I think he could at least get close to those top two, is the number 2, Something Awesome. Something Awesome is a horse that 3 starts back. I know it was Charlestown, and it's a little bit of an odd configuration. He earned a raw 128 time form US rating and a triple-digit Beyer speed figure. If he can run that race, I think he's got a puncher's chance, and I think he's coming in good form. We're going to go back to his most recent start. This is at Laurel, going 7/8 of a mile. He was basically completely outrun. Now keep in mind, this is off of about a 6-month layoff, and I like the fact that he comes on with this steady bid down on the inside. Inside's not where you want to be at Laurel. He floats out a little bit toward the end. Understandable. I think he was getting a little bit tired, but the winner that day, Colonel Sharp, he came back and won next out with a 100 Beyer. I think getting back to 2 turns, getting back to a 1.125 miles, all that is going to work for Something Awesome. Like I said, not nearly as likely a winner as City of Light or Accelerate. I think he can very least hit the board, if not threaten to win.
Nice inside post, 2 fastest races by far at the 1.125 distance of the Pegasus World Cup. Mike, Accelerate, undeniably the best older horse in 2018, 1.125 miles, 1.25 miles. It really makes no difference. He drew a great post position, and his tactical speed allows his jockey, Joel Rosario, to put him anywhere within the context of the race.
Yeah, true enough. That's going to be pretty important in this race, too, because it feels like his main rival, City of Light, can make the lead in here, and it's going to be up to Rosario to keep that horse in his sights, which Accelerate is more than capable of doing. Listen, I think he's a little bit better at 1.25 miles, but 1.125 miles is fine for this horse. We're going to look at his most recent win. This is the Breeders' Cup Classic, and this is just, to me, this isn't his best performance of 2018, but this is just him walking his beat and doing what he had to do, proving once again he's the best older horse in the country. Gunnevera is closing from behind him. He got a pretty good closer's trip, but he can't get to Accelerate. I like this performance from him. This was the kind of race where I thought the 2 favorites were strong. I didn't see the compelling long shot in the race necessarily. I'm going to hope that Accelerate can keep City of Light in his sights and get it done this time, because he was defeated by that horse over this distance last year.
While I think that City of Light might be slightly better at slightly shorter distances, it's worth noting that the one time Accelerate lost in 2018, it came to City of Light at this 1.125 miles distance. When they faced each other in their subsequent start going 1.25 miles, it was Accelerate who beat City of Light. This time at 1.125 miles, City of Light is the inside speed, and he's coming off of a big victory in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Let's go back to that race right now at Churchill Downs. Again, this was a 1-turn mile, but City of Light basically showed this field his heels from the start. Bravazzo trying to get into it from the outside. Seeking the Soul briefly stopped on the far turn, coming with a run, but they're really not going to get within hailing distance of City of Light, who popped a 110 Beyer speed figure and a 130 pace-adjusted time form US figure. I think at Gulfstream Park, you want to be on or close to the lead normally, especially on these big days. And I think if pattern recognition, the other speed in this race, who drew terribly out in the far outside, doesn't get close to City of Light early, there's a chance that City of Light can relax. I think there's going to be a confrontation between City of Light and Accelerate turning into the stretch. I'm hoping City of Light can hold that one off at a slightly better price. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on some sires in the Pegasus World Cup and the Pegasus World Cup Turf. And then we've got Craig Milkowski from Timeform US taking a look at one of the undercard races. He takes a look at the pace projector for the Hurricane Birdie Stakes.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for our loaded Pegasus weekend edition of Out of the Gate. Of course, this year the card adds the Pegasus Turf race. So I thought it would be interesting to look at the sires or sire lines that are represented in both the Pegasus Dirt and Turf races and how versatile those sire lines tend to be in your handicapping. We'll begin with the late, great Smart Strike, who stood at Lane's End, which is, of course, the sponsor of our Pegasus coverage. The extremely versatile Smart Strike, well represented in both races, as he's the sire of Pegasus entrant Tom Statot, and also the grandsire of race favorite, and by the way, future Lane's End stallion Accelerate, via his son Lookin' at Lucky. Smart Strike also well represented in the Pegasus Turf, as another of his sons, English Channel, will have 2 starters. Now, Tom Statot has won 6 of 9 career starts, making his 3rd start off a long layoff. After winning this allowance level event at Saratoga in August 2017, he was sidelined until last November when he returned with an allowance win at Churchill, then won the Tenacious Stakes at Fairgrounds. Now, Tom Stata, obviously a dirt router by Smart Strike, the sire of classic winners Curlin and Lookin' at Lucky. Both of those sons of his have gone on to become dirt route sires in their own right, as evidenced by Curlin's often cited classic success and Lookin' at Lucky's record with horses such as Breeders' Cup Classic winner Accelerate. But Smart Strike also has the ability to sire a classy turf horse who also inherits and can pass along that stamina. His son English Channel, a turf champion and consistent sire, a prime example of that. English Channel will have 2 in the inaugural Pegasus Turf, led by Grade 1 winner Channel Maker. Also has the mare Fahan Murrah taking on the boys. Now English Channel trying to, take over early on the turf sire list from 6-time leader Kitten's Joy, who's also represented in the Pegasus Turf. English Channel has a chance for a huge card on Saturday, though, as Channel Maker's full brother Johnny Bear and English Affair both contest graded stakes on the undercard. With Smart Strike so strongly represented in both those races, the card really is a prime opportunity for him to again showcase his versatility. Now, another sire line represented in both these races, the great AP Indy, a pensioner at Lane's End. AP Indy best known for his prowess with classic-type dirt horses, and you'll see his representation strongly in this year's renewal of the original Pegasus race. His sons Mineshaft and Bernardini both have starters. Bernardini also representing in the field as a broodmare sire, while Mineshaft's son Dialed In also has an entrant. You really don't think of AP Indy as being a very versatile sire line, but he is really prominently represented in Pegasus Turf as the broodmare sire of Delta Prince. Now, to be fair, that one's probably picking up some additional turf ability via sire line as he's by international success Street Cry, but he's out of AP Indy's daughter, Delta Princess. Now, she's maybe best known for the dirt exploits of her daughter, multiple Eclipse winner Royal Delta, but she also produced Turf Grade 1 winner Crown Queen. AP Indy's other grade or Group 1 winners on turf as a broodmare sire include champion Wait a While, along with Center Court, Dickinson, Imagining, Luke's Alley, Mr. Sydney, and Senga. And lastly, a quick peek at the late great Giants Causeway, another versatile dirt and turf sire thanks to support from outfits like Coolmore, which stood him. Now, he's represented in the Pegasus Dirt as the broodmare sire of the previously mentioned Tom Statat, but also pops out strongly in the Pegasus Turf as the sire of Bricks and Mortar and the broodmare sire of Fahan Murrah. Well, thanks for tuning in this week on Out of the Gate. As we've noted, just a stakes-loaded card topped by the Pegasus World Cup and the Pegasus Turf on Saturday at Gulfstream. And next up, we'll get you over for a closer look at some more of the weekend's action with the Timeform U.S. Pace Projector.
Hi, this is Craig Mulkowski at Timeform US for this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Today I'm going to take a look at the Hurricane Birdie Stakes at Grade 3 being run at Gulfstream Park on Saturday on the undercard of the Pegasus Stakes. It's a 7-furlong dirt race for older fillies and mares. And the reason that I was drawn to this race is specifically because of the pace projector and what looks like a big tactical advantage for Blamed. You can see the pace projector in the upper right corner. We're going to look a little closer at it in just a few seconds. But you can notice that the C details is highlighted in blue, which tells us we don't think there's much speed and the race is going to favor horses on or near the early lead. I did highlight the horses who are listed as trackers in here, of which there are 4. And you can see the Timeform US early speed rating gives a big advantage to Blame, much higher than anybody else in the field, full 14 points. So the question is, can she handle the 7-furlong distance? That's often a question at this trip. Usually don't get a lot of speed horses in here, so it's not rare to see that blue flag, but it is definitely a question of whether the horse can get there or not. Little closer look at the pace projector just to give you the enhanced view that you can get when you click on it. There's no real additional info in here, no horses adding blinkers or removing them, no horses that are so far back you couldn't see them off the back of the page. So pretty clear cut. We think the 5's going to the front, be chased by the 2 and the 8, and that she has a big advantage. Let's take a closer look at her. blamed, and she's been a very impressive filly thus far in her career. She was just dominant out in New Mexico. She dropped her first race, which doesn't show on the graphic here, but she ran second in her debut, reeled off five in a row, I believe it was, in New Mexico. And then she finally shipped east, got a new trainer, and jumped way up in competition in the Great View Raven Run, and she was hardly embarrassed that day. She set a really fast pace, as you can see by the fractions, the pace figures highlighted in red. She always leads or is right up there. And the horse who beat her last time, which I circled, was Shamrock Rose. She's also in this field, but the reason I circled her here is the big note is she went on from that race to win the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. So certainly no disgrace there. She handled the 7 furlongs well. She then stepped up to 1 1/8 next time in the Cumley Stakes at Aqueduct. And once again, she went right to the front in her longest race yet, was able to not easily, she won by less than a length, but she opened up, held on late, and now she turns back a little bit in distance. So the 7 furlongs doesn't look like it's going to be much of an issue here. And I think she's really got a big edge, so no surprise she is going to be my selection here today. The others I do want to look at just to see why I'm so high on Blamed. We'll start with Dream Pauline, who's 3-1 on the morning line. And the main reason I'm just not a big fan of this horse is she hasn't run very fast. You may have noticed Blamed had that 123 time form US speed figure right at the top last time, 117 before that. This horse has come nowhere near that. Her top was a 107 in her debut. She's actually regressed a little bit off of that. I do expect her to run faster. I'm sure she's going to be a contender, but at the short odds, that's an awful big jump to expect. So I'm going to take a pass on her. And the other one is the aforementioned Shamrock Rose, who did win the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, as I mentioned. But the reason I won't say I'm against her, because I expect her to run well. I just think she's at a tactical disadvantage. You can see in her last 2 wins, including that Breeders' Cup win and the time she beat Blame 2 back, both the fractions were in red, very bright red. They were very fast paced that day. She sat well back and was able to get up late, run down. So she likes the distance, but I just don't think she's going to get that kind of pace. There's just not a lot of speed in here. It's not an overly big field. So I think she's going to be up against it. Would it shock me if she won? No, certainly not. But Blamed is definitely going to be my selection in here. So that does it for this week's edition of Out of the Gate from Timeform US, and I'll see you guys next week.
Quality Road, proving Lane's End's tried and true stallion making formula. A formula that leads to success for our partners and our stallions. Before siring $1 million yearling at the Keeneland September sale, Quality Road sired Breeders' Cup and Royal Ascot winners in his first crop, and was one of only 4 sires to produce multiple 2-year-old G1 winners in 2016, including Abel Tasman, 4-time Grade 1 and Kentucky Oaks winner. Quality Road, a stallion that stands above the rest.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 1 $7 million Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational, carded as race number 11 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. For expanded stakes previews of all of the major races at Gulfstream this Saturday and lots more, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, distance a question for many of the horses in this race. One of them, the number 9 Catapult, who has been so good since being shipped out to Southern California.
Yeah, this horse has really found himself out in Southern California. I think that's key to this race. We'll see what happens. I hear you about the distance. He has won at 1 1/8. I'm hoping he'll get this far. We're going to put up the replay of his most recent start. This is the Breeders' Cup Mile. He runs really well in this race. He got caught 4 wide around that second turn. He's up there in a stretch long duel with Analyzer. I thought this was a good performance. He will just get nailed at the end. This was a good effort, but what I'm really looking for this horse to do is what he did in his win in the Del Mar Mile and in the Eddie Reed prior to this, and that is be taken back off the pace and wait until the very last chance to make his run, because that's what I think made a big difference for this horse. They've started taking him back off the pace, producing him late, and he has been charging through the stretch. I think that's what they have to do here, and if he can do that, I think there's a chance to win this race.
Matt, your top selection in this race did not run very well in the Breeders' Cup Turf, but it might be wise to take that race with a grain of salt considering the pace situation. Fahan Moura might be the speed in the Pegasus World Cup Turf, and I think a lot of trainers and jockeys are eyeing sitting second and third off that horse. Your top pick might fit the bill.
Yeah, it's kind of the hope for me anyway with Channel Maker. And you're right, the Breeders' Cup Turf, not a good effort from him, but I'm going to have that sort of built-in excuse given the fact that it was a very, very boggy turf course, which I know he's run well over in the past. But the pace, you brought it up. Timeform US, I believe one of the early splits, they had it at a 178. So he had every right to finish up the track. And there's no enable or magical in this field here. 2 starts back, though. We're going to go back to the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic at Belmont. I thought this was a bang-up race. I know it was over soft turf, and perhaps Robert Bruce, that's not the footing that he wants. But Channel Maker scoots away from a really, really nice horse. And if Robert Bruce was in this race, he'd be one of the favorites, if not the outright favorite. And Dan, like you said, from a pace situation, Fahan Moura, if you believe WW can get close, and even Aerolith, I think there are questions about stamina as well as class with all 3 of them. I think Channel Maker could inherit this thing turning for home. Maybe the mile and 3/16, a hair sharp for him, but I think he's capable at it. And if he's 12-1 like he is in the morning line, I'll take that every day.
I want sort of a fresh face in here, and the number 7 Bricks and Mortar fits the bill. He started his career as a good 3-year-old for Chad Brown, winning 4 consecutive races, and then I thought he had trips in both the Saranac and Hill Prince when beaten a length in both of those starts. Unfortunately for Chad and the connections, Bricks and Mortar then went to the sidelines for over a year. He returned with this effort, showing not a lot of rust in an optional claiming race at Gulfstream, a mile event on December the 22nd. Bricks and Mortar made a very smooth 3-wide bid on the far turn to get into contention, and although I think he's getting a little bit tired here, he has enough to run down the pace setter, Mr. Cub, despite switching back to his left lead in the shadow of the wire. I think he can build off of this race. In his second start of the form cycle, he has a bullet 5-furlong workout leading up to it. We'll see if he can get the mile in 3/16, but it would really surprise you if Chad Brown won the first ever $7 million Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational. Bricks and Mortar will be my top selection. He's 5-1 on the morning line. Bonus coverage at Gulfstream. We'll take a look at the WL McKnight next. Let's go up the field for the Grade 3 $200,000 WL McKnight at Gulfstream, carded as race number 10. We are going a mile and a half on the turf. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, the favorite in this race is 4-1 on the morning line. It is a wide open affair. That horse Zulu Alpha tried to cut back in distance last time out and caught a speedster in Glorious Empire, but he made hay at this distance 2 starts back at Keeneland.
Wouldn't be too hard on him for his last race. You're right, Glorious Empire wired that field. This horse got caught wide in that race. I won't be too hard on him for that race. Let's go back to his win 2 starts back. This is the Grade 3 Sycamore, mile and a half, same distance as he'll travel on Saturday. This is what's known as a perfect trip, sitting right in behind the lead, getting through on the rail. But he's also easily best in here, and he's easily best over a couple of horses in Arklow and Bigger Picture who would fit pretty well in this field too. I get him as the horse to beat. I think there's a real chance that maybe he's just better than these horses. I just didn't really want a short price on anybody in this race.
Mike, as you mentioned in the stakes preview, this is the kind of horse, though, that gets good trips, and a mile and a half is no problem. He's run some fast races. Matt, we respect Zulu Alpha immensely. We respect Solio. We respect a lot of the shorter priced horses in this race, but not so much that we want to take too short a price. We're looking for a bomb.
Well, and like Mike said, I just don't want a short price in this race because I think it is wide open. And admittedly, the horse I'm going with, never really been a fan. Hunter O'Reilly, I get it. It's just one of those instances where the horse been more of a nibbler throughout his career. But Saratoga, he did some good things. 4 starts back, he was a winner, and we're going to take a look at this run here. Unfortunately, this was in 2017, the Grade 1 Sword Dancer. He's going to come with a little bit of a bid. He's going to have to weave through traffic a little bit, and unfortunately, he can't quite finish with the likes of Sadler's Joy or Money Multiplier or Bigger Picture. But at the same time, I kind of feel like an effort like that at least gives him a puncher's chance in a race like this. He's 20-1. He's probably going to be relatively close to that 20-1 morning line. And I think the other thing that's interesting, he's been gelded for the first time, or this will be his first time going out as a gelding. And again, in a race that I think is just so wide open, I don't want to settle for a short price. I won't have a ton of money on Hunter O'Reilly, but I'll have a few bucks.
Mike, you want a price as well. The one Highland Sky was a very good 3-year-old turf horse for Barclay Tagg, and then kind of lost his way for a little while. Against these kind of horses, getting back to a course that he likes, Gulfstream Park, maybe Highland Sky can work out a trip.
Yeah, it never really panned out. We'll see if he catches enough pace, because he's like Matt's top pick, Hunter O'Reilly. This horse is going to need something to run at in this stretch because he's a closer. I'm just hoping that this is the kind of field he fits a little bit better in. We're going to look at his start 3 races ago. This is the Bowling Green at Saratoga, and he's not going to be able to make an impact late in this race. You can see him in an all-out drive between horses trying to close some ground, and he can't really get into it. But this is a race where the 1-2 finishers, Channel Maker, Glorious Empire, too good for him. His next start was the Grade 1 Sword Dancer. Glorious Empire, Channel Maker, they're too good for him. His next start after that, another Grade 1, Channel Maker, Robert Bruce, they're too good for him. He fits better in a race like this one if he can get a trip. And I just wanted a horse at a price. I'm hoping it's him.
I really thought if you polled 25 different handicappers across the country that I'd be the only one that liked Hunter O'Reilly. No, I feel better that Matt likes him a little bit. Matt maybe made all of the cases for Hunter O'Reilly. This is a horse that's had his share of physical problems. There's no doubt about it. He wore bar shoes several times in 2016. But Matt showed his race in 2017, coming on the heels of a win in the Grade 2 Bowling Green. Those were 2 big races, and I think he really felt the effects of those races in his 2 subsequent starts. I think that the gas tank was on E in the Red Smith of 2017, the Elkhorn in 2018. I like that Jimmy Toner's given him a lot of time off. He's coming back as a gelding. He seems like an unlikely winner, but he's got a puncher's chance from the back of the pack. Like Matt, not going to have too much money on him, but I do want to consider him at a big price. That's Hunter O'Reilly in the WL McKnight. JK's play of the day. He's looking at a daily double, going to combine those 2 Pegasus World Cup races. David Aragona from Timeform US looks for value at the Big A on Saturday. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Down in beautiful Miami, I guess it's a little bit rainy in the background. They just came off the turf on a Thursday's racing. Obviously the turf course can handle a little bit of water here. It hasn't been raining too much in the past couple of weeks here. So pretty simple play for me this weekend for JK's Play of the Day. I love a horse in the Pegasus. That horse is City of Light. I'm going to play very simple doubles. I'm going to play Yoshida, the 2 horse, and Aerolite, the horse that's the Japanese horse. I'm going to use those 2 horses in the Pegasus Turf. Obviously, Yoshida can handle a little cut in the ground. He did that at Churchill on Derby Day. Aerolite getting the huge weight break. I think a lot of people are aware of getting it at 112 pounds. Florent Giroux seems to say that he probably will get pretty close to 112, maybe not exactly to 112. Either way, she ran really well in a big race overseas. Coming here, she should expect to run well, especially with the weight break. And then City of Light. I think if he's ridden like he was in the dirt mile, down on the inside, break away from there, send. If he's got the lead when they turn for home, I think he'll be extremely tough to beat. I like Accelerate. He proved me wrong in the Breeders' Cup Classic. However, I do think that Accelerate is better at 1.25 miles. This race will be run at 1.125 miles. City of Light is my pick in the Pegasus and my single in JK's Play of the Day.
Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. It's a big week of racing this weekend with the Pegasus World Cup and the Pegasus Turf coming up at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Interesting races. I don't have a very strong opinion in the Pegasus World Cup. Nothing really clever for me. I like Accelerate and City of Light, and I'm kind of rooting for Accelerate to win that race as a fan of his, but I think it is a pretty straightforward affair. The Pegasus Turf is a little bit more interesting. I'm kind of rooting for the Japanese filly, Aerolite. I think her form is going to translate well as long as the turf comes up firm. As a long shot, I kind of like Channel Maker a little bit. I think if the turf course comes up a bit wet, I think there's some rain in the forecast. He could do pretty well. He can go shorter distances. I know he focused on 1.5 mile races towards the latter half of last season, but he'd been proficient going shorter in the past, and I think he's a bit of a sleeper in there at, a price around 8 or 10 to 1. But maybe we can pad the bankroll for those Pegasus World Cup and Pegasus Turf races later on in the card by looking at Aqueduct's third race on Saturday. It's a really good card at Aqueduct, actually. Interesting races throughout the day on a 10-race card. I want to take a look at the third race, though. We drew a pretty short field. We'll take a look at the Timeform US preview screen, and the number 6 horse Shelly-Ann is going to be a pretty prohibitive favorite of this race. I made her 4-5 on the morning line, and she figures to be all of that, just given her edge over this field, her relative class compared to some other horses in this race. She is way the horse to beat. And we'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector. Shelly-Ann is a horse that likes to be forwardly placed, and she is predicted to get that position on the lead with a significant advantage in the early going. The other horses in this field just don't possess the same early speed that she does. So she's going to get the right trip. She might just be the best horse in the race. Why do I have a reason to pick against her? Well, we'll get to that. We'll just take a look at Shelly-Ann's PPs first, and you can see how rock solid she is. They really took a shot with her in her debut, running her in the Maid of the Mist in that first start, and she was just in over her head that day. It was a full field of 11 horses. She was in contention early, was wide, and just kind of faded. They were giving her a race, I guess. It was a pretty ambitious placing. They came back in maiden company next time, much more realistic spot, and she really capitalized on facing a softer field. She won by almost 5 lengths, earned a much faster 91 Timeform US speed figure, and ran well to beat a decent field that day. They stepped her right back up in class in a stakes company. She was dismissed at 16-1 this time, but she ran a stellar race in that Eastview. The winner, Espresso Shot, she's pretty nice. She had run well in sprint company before that in a stakes race. She had won her maiden race going pretty fast over a route of ground, and she got back to a route and really ran well to beat Shelly-Ann in that Eastview. But Shelly-Ann, there was no disgrace in finishing second because she set a legitimate pace. It's not like it really held together on the front end because the winner closed from the back. And I thought Shelly-Ann was very game to hold on for second over horses that were coming at her and taking shots at her in the stretch. And she really battled on and showed that she can get the mile distance. If she runs back to that race and repeats that 99 Timeform US speed figure that she earned, she is going to be very tough to beat. But I do think she faces a legitimate rival in this race who is going to be a significantly better price. And that's the number 4 horse, She Takes Charge, making her second start for Dermot Magner. She got a ton of support in her debut. It was a 12-horse field New York bred maiden that she got bet down to be the 5-2 favorite as a first-time starter, so they must have really liked her that day. Within the context of the race, I thought she ran quite well. She rated behind horses professionally, made a 4-wide sweep to the lead at the top of the stretch, and drew off impressively. The problem with that race, looking at it on the surface of things, is that the 75 Timeform US speed figure that she earned just doesn't really make her remotely competitive with Shelly-Ann. But what we really make of that when we dig into that figure, and it's not like the Timeform US figure is way out of whack with other speed figures. The Beyer speed figure was a 59, so it just did not come up as a fast race overall compared to the other races on that card. But when we really start to dig in to the horses that have run back out of that race, I think you can make a pretty solid case that this speed figure may be a little bit lower than it should be for whatever reason. We look at the chart for the race when we click on the running line, and we see that Delta Gamma, the second place finisher, came back and was second in another maiden race, but she earned a Timeform US speed figure that was 22 points higher. Then we look at the fourth place finisher, Jay's Malibu, came back and ran 18 points higher at her next start. And it's not just the horses that have finished relatively close to She Takes Charge. We look further down in the field, scrolling down to the bottom of the finishers, and the ninth place finisher, Any Day Is Her Day, she came back and ran third in a maiden race, running a speed figure that was nearly 40 points higher. And even the last place finisher, Irish Banker, had previously run a speed figure that was significantly higher than the 27 she earned for this last place finish, and she came back and ran a speed figure that was 42 points higher than she earned on this day. So there's some strong evidence that She Takes Charge may have run much faster than it initially seemed. This Aqueduct main track has been really tough to get a handle on. It seems like the track changes and how fast or slow it is throughout a day many times, so I'm not going to be surprised if this figure is a little wrong. And She Takes Charge, I like the way that she won her debut. She's got some pedigree to stretch out, being by Take Charge Indy, and I think she's going to give Shelly-Ann at least a challenge in this race. We'll see how different they are in prices. I've got Shelly-Ann at 4-5 in the morning line, and She Takes Charge at 3-1. I would want at least that on She Takes Charge, because Shelly-Ann is just way the horse to beat in this race. But, if you're playing multi-race wagers and looking at Shelly-Ann like she's a single, I think you want to elevate She Takes Charge, because she has a real chance to beat the favorite in this race. So that's the third race at Aqueduct on Saturday. Hopefully we can make a little bit of a score early in the day and pad that bankroll for the Pegasus World Cup and Pegasus Turf later on. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Matt, you were very bullish on your top selection in the Hurricane Birdie when we did our expanded stakes preview. No surprise. This is your selection for Saturday's best bet.
Yeah, maybe I'm overrating her a little bit, but I think Blamed could be set up for a pretty big 4-year-old campaign. I know most recently she was up at Aqueduct. She went a mile and an eighth, and she got the job done in the Comely, but I'm actually more impressed with the effort 2 starts back, and that's the one we're going to take a look at right now. This was in the Raven Run down at Keeneland. She's out there setting the fractions. Now, keep in mind, this was her first start going out for Bill Mott, her first start since the end of March when she was out at Sunland Park. Been a long time. She goes out there and sets hot fractions throughout. Timeform US had color-coded all red. They had 143s, 133s as far as ratings are concerned, and she just pays the price at the end of it. And guess what? She got run over by a pretty good horse, Shamrock Rose, so she'll run into again here. And Shamrock Rose, all she did was come back and win the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Blamed is going to have a much, much more advantageous pace situation on Saturday. I don't think you get the 5-1 morning line that she's listed at. I think she's probably in that 5-2 range, but I'll still take it. I think she got a big chance.
Mike Beard-Naira, analyst, you're not being seduced by the siren song of stakes spectacles. You've got something at Aqueduct.
Yeah, it's a 1X allowance for older horses, race number 6 at the Big A. This is an allowance field of horses that are mostly all stepping up in class. The horse to beat is probably Build to Suit, who's returning from a 470-day layoff. I want Go Get the Money in this race. He's number 7. This horse was an eye-catching debut winner over this track early last year, missed a ton of time after that. This is his first start we're going to look at right now. First start off a 9-month layoff, and he's been up there contesting the pace in this race the entire way. He's going to get a little tired at the end. He can't get by that horse on the lead, a Rudy Rodriguez horse who has really improved off the claim. This horse will get a little tired at the end, and here comes up the inside an in-form Honor Up who exited this race to win a stakes race. I think this was a good place to start for Go Get the Money. He does not need to be contesting the pace in this race. I think he just might be a little better than these horses. 91 buyer for that effort. If he can run that kind of race back in this spot, I think he might be tough to beat.
When Matt and I filmed the expanded stakes preview for the Fred W. Hooper Stakes on Wednesday, we both agreed that Coldfront, the morning line favorite trained by Todd Pletcher, was simply the horse to beat, and we didn't want to take too many shots against him. Marty McGee of DRF wrote on Thursday, however, that Coldfront might scratch and await a longer distance race at Oaklawn in a couple of weeks. That makes the Hooper a more wide open betting race, and I'm going to take a chance with the number 9 Unbridled One, who earlier in his career seemingly could not buy a win. He hung, he nibbled, he never got it done. But over the winter of 2017, he was gelded. He returned for trainer Jose Corrales, and since then, 6 starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds, and a third, including this game performance in the Richard W. Small Stakes at Laurel last time out. That's Dalmore and the Green Silks on the lead. Unbridled One was chasing him, engaged him on the turn, took over, and beats back a very courageous Dalmore all the way down towards the wire. Now, this race was a 2-turn mile and an eighth, but Unbridled One has been just as comfortable around 1 turn since his resurgence. He's going to be a good price, even with Coldfront out, and I'm going to take a chance that the house horse, Stronach Stable homebred Unbridled One, can upset them in the Fred W. Hooper. We thank you so much for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRF TV's latest offerings on social media. Please follow on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.